Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the comment. Now, as you guys know, Dan Le Batard was formerly employed at ESPN. He had his own show, right? But since then, he's gone on to do his own thing with DraftKings and all of these guys, and he's doing his own thing, and he's having his own successful show. Recently, or a number of months ago, he brought on Stephen A. Smith to interview him. They discussed a range of things, but one of the things that Dan Le Batard said to Stephen A. Smith during that interview was he doesn't like what him and Skip Bayless have done to the sports media landscape. Stephen A. Smith pushed back. We moved on. Then what happened? The layoffs started to happen at ESPN by them laying off some pretty high-profile people like Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, Jeff Van Gundy, Jalen Rose, right? And a lot of people started talking. Then we found out that the reason that they're doing that is due to cord cutting because ESPN has a $5.5 billion debt that they need to service, right? Which is real. And if you guys know, if you borrow money, interest. Some people are so knee deep in interest that they're not even paying off their principal. They're just paying off the interest. It can become a bottomless pit paying back loans, especially to banks. So they started coming up with various ways and perturbations to find a way to deal with this debt, right? Then what happened? Stephen A. Smith then came out on his podcast less than a week or so ago, and he addressed all of the chatter that's been surrounding ESPN because a lot of people have been saying that ESPN is on a slow they're slowly declining over time, right? Like Clay Travis and others. And Dan Le Batard had some thoughts about ESPN. So Stephen A. Smith, in his show, he addresses Dan Le Batard by name. And one of the things that he says to him is that, listen, I don't understand. Why weren't you this vocal when you were working at ESPN and collecting all of those checks? If you felt this way, why did you stay there for all those years and collect those checks? Why did you do that? So what happened yesterday? Combing through the internet, and a video was suggested to me from Dan Le Batard's show. It's about a 26-minute clip or so. And in about the first 12 to 15 minutes, he was essentially addressing Stephen A. Smith. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly what Dan Le Batard had to say in response to some of the things that Stephen A. Smith had to say, and then we want to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
I do not listen to the Stephen A. Smith No Mercy podcast. I am an admirer of Stephen A. Smith's story. It doesn't have a whole lot of precedent in my lifetime in journalism. A guy gets let go by ESPN and somehow makes it back stronger than ever, dominates the network, will now be someone who gets to have resources with First Take to make it bigger and bigger and bigger as Skip Bayless looks for a partner, as Skip Bayless takes 2 months off and they try to figure out if Richard Sherman can fill the role of Shannon Sharpe, and as it is rumored all over the place that Shannon Sharpe might go to ESPN and be a part of what Stephen A. Smith is now doing under ESPN's umbrella. And if you're watching him closely, a lot of stuff outside of ESPN's umbrella, because that man is hungrier than anyone I've ever met in this business about accruing, and whatever's next for him is going to be giant. I consider him a friend, and I'm impressed by him. I don't like what he's done to sports television. I think he's helped make it dumber. This has bothered him that I said this to him the last time that we talked. And I would like to talk to him in the future in a way that is conversational instead of performative about how dumb sports debate television has made everything. But I heard this, people sent me that Stephen A. Smith went after me loudly, because that's the only way he goes after people. And this is what he had to say. I've only seen it. I haven't actually heard it. I've only seen aggregated quotes that I read, that he said something. I didn't even know what he was reacting to, that something I did was bull. Tell me you haven't watched Highly Questionable without telling me you haven't watched Highly Questionable. You think I was debating my father on that show? Stephen A. Smith doesn't have time. He's too busy talking all over the rest of the network to watch any of what's happening on shows elsewhere on the network.
So if your only experience with Highly Questionable is seeing the 3-shot of Bomani, Bobby, and Dan, well, you got one of the key elements there, white guy, black guy, as we know, in debate culture. and you have sports clips going on in the background, I would also assume debate show.
Fair enough. And that isn't actually, I didn't hear in there any of the sound that I read or much of the sound that I read, because he also said about like, why do you say that? Why do you say things when you leave the employer when you didn't say those things while taking money from the employer? I don't think that's a fair criticism. I got in trouble all the time because I was always saying at ESPN microphones while taking ESPN's money that ESPN should be covered the way it covers others, and it's a real blind spot at the network that it doesn't. But I understand why he would arrive at this particular viewpoint. The part about this that was, to me, in the shadows and more objectionable than some of the stuff that we're talking about is his problem's not actually with me. It's with what Jemele Hill said on our platform. And this is more complicated because I'm a much easier target for him to put a name on than going after the black female that he also respects, that he doesn't want to start that back and forth when it's easier to just frame it under me. When I didn't say the thing he objected to, which I understand why
you
he
merely
objected.
Said one of the things that he objected to.
Well, no, I believe that what he objected to, let's play this sound from Jemele on our show. I believe that the strongest objection by him, and I understand being insulted by this, if you're him, is one phrase in the sound we're about to play for you.
Thinking about, my situation is like they were reacting to a moment then. That moment said that people didn't want to hear any political talk, any racial talk, any social justice talk. Not that that was something Mike and I were doing every day on SportsCenter. We weren't. They let a false narrative persist about our show that people just kind of ran away with. They let the idiots in the room control the conversation. People like Clay Travis. That's what happened. And because they allowed those people to direct their course of action, they panicked. And suddenly they were very intentional about the things that they were doing in our show. They wanted black faces. They didn't want necessarily black voices. And that's how it came off. Right. And so because of that, ultimately, we wound up paying the price.
Yep. When you say the phrase black faces, not black voices, and Stephen A. Smith is still one of the black faces at ESPN, and you're suggesting that he's establishment, that you're braver than he is because he's a part of the system that wrongs people. I understand him getting bothered by that insult, but your problem's not with me, Stephen A. Smith. You should take that up with her publicly if the objection is I don't like being told that I am somebody who's kept by the company. Even as you write in your book that you wake up every day thinking of ways to make money for the company, and you're the one they throw out there when Dana White gets in trouble and they've got all sorts of conflict of interest and they need somebody to give a voice to something, and you talk about how you're friends with Dana White. Like your objection is not actually with me. And I would love to discuss this with him in a form that wasn't, let's see who can win an argument.
You mean debate?
Yeah. Let's just talk like human beings.
You don't want to play the road game?
So you heard what he had to say. Now, if you listen carefully, he brought up a part about Jemele Hill, right? And when she made the comment that they don't want what black faces think or black voices or something like that. And Dan Le Batard is essentially saying, listen, all of this energy that you have for me shouldn't be directed towards me. It should be directed towards Jemele Hill. But I'm an easier target because I'm a male, so no one is going to say anything. But if you go after a black lady, then it's going to create another scenario, right? Which is the first thing. The second thing that Dan Le Batard said was, wait a minute. While I was there, I was complaining. He said, I did get into trouble. He said, the reason you didn't hear me was because maybe you were too busy shouting. Which is, that was a shot. That was a shot. My opinion on this is this. I feel like Dan Le Batard is 100% comfortable in his skin. I feel like he is happy that he jumped ship when he did, that he's now mastering the independent sports media space and he's thriving, doing very, very well. So I feel like he's speaking from a position of power. I feel like he's probably looking at those people that are still stuck on that ship like, yo, bro, when are you guys going to strike out on your own? And then you have Stephen A. Smith who's saying, who's reading all the numbers like, yo, what's still number one? What are you talking about? Why do you have all of these things to say? But to me, I don't think this will be the end. I think Stephen A. Smith is going to respond to some of the comments that Dan Le Batard made. Stephen A. Smith tried to make it seem like some of the things happening at ESPN is not really happening. No, my fellow, it is. They fired those people. That was real. If it was all peaches and cream, they would not have fired them, right? Them losing subscribers is a real thing. Them finding ways to now reorganize the company and re-strategize is a real thing. You guys heard the article that I read around Bob Iger talking about, about CEO of Disney, talking about ESPN, talking about how they're looking for a strategic partner, right? So there are a lot of things going on, but I don't think this back and forth between Stephen A. Smith and Dan Le Batard is over. So what I want to know from you guys is, who do you think is in the right? Do you think it's Stephen A. Smith or Dan Le Batard? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts in the comment section, and we catch you on the next show. Peace.